So we all are thinking about Mr. Hamlin, his name, right? Hamlin, who was the defensive back or cornerback for the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football that had the cardiac event. I started thinking about Dr. Malone because Dr. Malone did his medical training at the University of Cincinnati at the same hospital that Mr. Hamlin was taken to after this event. So, and I knew that Dr. Malone would know something about this Commotio Cordis, even though they haven't decided and determined, obviously, that that's the cause of his problem, right?
Correct.
It sounds like from what's happened and the physical characteristics of the injury that it could be Commotio Cordis, if I'm saying that correctly.
You are.
And I was going to get Dr. Malone, since he worked in the same hospital that Mr. Hamlin's in right now and trained there, to talk about the hospital first and to talk about Commotio Cordis and the other things that it could be if it's not Commotio Cordis.
Sure. So, yeah, I also saw this as well as watching at home on Monday night, and our DVR caught it, so I was able to rewind and watch it like in slow motion and try to figure out, oh my gosh, what happened. And yeah, we don't know right now. We can only speculate. As far as when it was going on, I told my wife, who was sitting across the room from me, I said, he's in the exact spot that you would want to be. 4 miles from major medical center with one of the top-rated, oldest emergency department, emergency medicine training programs in the country.
Where you trained?
Yeah, and so that's emergency medicine. I was not emergency medicine. I went to medical school there, but we did rotations through there, and that is the place that you'd want to be if you had any kind of event like that, trauma, anything. I mean, it is top tier.
You also want the NFL trainers and doctors
and
to tend to you before you got there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of overlap. I don't know any of the personnel, but when I was in med school there almost 20 years ago, there was a lot of overlap, meaning that the team doctors for all the sports teams were also the attending physicians at the university.
Right.
So there's a lot of overlap. And I can almost guarantee you that there was communication with the facility, the athletic facility, and the hospital while he was still laying on the field.
No doubt.
I guarantee you that. As far as they know who's on call, they know who's coming in, they know who's already at the hospital, all that stuff. But as far as the possibility of Commotio Cordis, if this is going to happen to you, you want it to happen the way it happened to this gentleman, meaning immediate resuscitation efforts, good quality CPR, an AED on site, okay? You're seeing all these statistics and headlines like every minute that's delayed, it's like a 10% decrease in your possible recovery or survival. It's pretty grim as far as the statistics. If you look at all the documented cases of this Commotio Cordis over however many years, it's like an 80% mortality rate. It's gone down over time with the introduction of AEDs at these facilities and people recognizing that. But anyhow, going back to Monday night, like that is where you want it to happen. I can also almost guarantee you that when it happened, we're all speculating about this. This was on the front of their minds. The guys on the field, the personnel on the field, the medical providers, they probably were thinking that they knew what it was. I guarantee you. And so they were working, doing the CPR kind of stuff, airway, breathing, circulation. They probably were calling to get the backup, get the ambulance out there faster than it would happen anywhere else. So I think that bodes well for him if that's is what happened. But again, when I saw this on Monday night, that wasn't on the front of my mind. You start thinking, wow, what else could this be? You kind of start going through that differential. And I was talking to Joe, and you start thinking, is there a congenital something? Did this guy have a brain aneurysm that he didn't know about that ruptured at that moment? Did he have a tear in his aorta that happened at that moment?
From the impact.
Yeah, exactly. You can also get other arrhythmias, not just the Commotio Cordis. There are other congenital arrhythmias. So you think about those things to happen that quickly, where he stood up and then collapsed. There are other things that you would think, like they don't feel well for a little bit and then they collapse, like minutes later, and I'm thinking, okay, that's not what this is. So I was kind of thinking neuro or cardiac or a combination of the two when it happened.
And the reason Commotio Cordis is the leading, I think, possibility, and I didn't know this till the doctor just told me, but basically it requires something sharp or something small like a fist or a ball or a hockey puck to fit in between the ribs, because it actually pushes the object pushes into the heart itself between the ribs. It can't do it at the sternum because it's a solid bone, but off to the side where he was hit, part of the guy's shoulder pad or his face mask or something, projectile fit in between the ribs and actually touched the part of the heart where the T wave starts on the
ventricle. And the ventricle. Yeah, that's where the conduction is going through the ventricle.
And if you hit that part of the heart at that particular part of the heartbeat, that causes this issue.
If it's going to happen, that's when it's going to happen. Okay. It doesn't happen every time. If you sat there and just hit someone, over and over and over, and just waited for that 1 millisecond, you could hit that millisecond, but it's not necessarily going to cause the commotio. There's a bunch of other factors. The force needs to be the right way, and it's basically bad luck. But yeah, it comes at an angle. Going right at the sternum is actually protective, so hitting it at an angle. And then the mechanism is that, the understood mechanism is that there is a increased pressure in the left ventricle, like temporarily, like transiently, like enough that it stretches the ventricle wall. The cells don't like that, and then they stop. Well, the circuit, the electrical circuit going through the wall doesn't like that. So imagine all the walls in your living room are full of electrical wires, right? If you exploded your living room, all those wires are not going to be happy either. They're going to catch on fire or something. They're going to short circuit something. That's what happens inside the heart, that increased pressure. Got it.
Now, interestingly, you pulled some articles. We're going to attach them to this video. They talk about how prominent this is, 10 to 20 cases per year. One of the articles goes through the list of activities that is highest, where there's a higher incidence of this particular Commotio Cordis phenomenon.
It's the baseball, the hockey, the softball. Interestingly, air-filled balls, soccer, things like that, volleyball, not been documented. Why? The speculation is that because the air within the ball itself absorbs some of the force. Right. So it's a hard object. And then as far as other body parts hitting someone, it's elbow, shoulder, knee. In this case, in looking at the video slow motion, it looks like a shoulder pad got in that area. The research has been, how do you protect the chest wall and get it so that you can play the sport without having to wear armor, and also having the AEDs on the field or in close proximity. Those are the two interventions that have proven to be effective.
The important thing is about all this is that I thought maybe perhaps it was an aorta, because we see in our business, the car wreck business, you can have a deceleration injury, like a deceleration with a player and a deceleration with a car and a seatbelt can cause your aorta to rupture or split or perforate. And that was one of the things that I thought it was. But then this actually makes more sense because of the way he stood up. I mean, sometimes the rupture aorta allows you to move too.
Before you decompensate,
And that's the reason I thought it could have been that. We don't see these Commotio Cordis injuries in car wreck cases because most of the time when you decelerate, you're not coming into contact with something small. It's usually the steering wheel, which is big.
And it's on your sternum.
And it's on your sternum, unless there's something in your car perhaps that is able to get in there during the impact. Anyway, we're going to attach these articles to the video, and if you have questions about any car wreck related injuries that caused any kind of chest or cardiac abnormality, you can find us on the web at Zarzaur Law, or you can call us at 855-HIRE-JOE. This is just for, I really wanted you to speak to this because you worked in that facility, and you knew that trauma center, and I knew you would know something about Commotio Cordis, and maybe telling the public about it would help them understand what's going on.
Well, it just reminded me of, these NFL facilities are all in major metro areas, but just doing a quick review of where they are in relation to the level and trauma centers, like in Miami, it's like 7 miles. In Buffalo, it's like 11 miles. Wow. 4 miles. Again, he was lucky really where close. It happened. Yeah.
All right, good deal. If you have any questions about any of this, you can find us, like I told you. Thank you, Dr. Malone.
You bet.